Some stories become famous because they are dramatic, some because they are miraculous, and some because the people in them refuse to bend, no matter what the world throws at them. But among all ancient stories, among all kings, kingdoms, and prophets, stands one man who faced lions, kings, dreams, and empires, and still remained unshaken. A man taken as a prisoner, yet rose to become one of the most trusted leaders in the greatest empire of his time. A man whose faith was tested by fire, by jealousy, by threats, yet he never broke. This is the story of Daniel, the boy who became a prophet, the captive who rose to power, the man who survived the lion's den, and the servant of God who saw visions of kingdoms that would rise and fall. So sit back, relax, because today we dive into one of the most powerful stories in biblical history, the story of Daniel. The story of Daniel begins not in peace, but in war. Jerusalem had fallen. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon invaded the land, destroyed the temple, and took many young men captive. Among these captives was a young Jewish boy named Daniel, probably around 15 or 16 years old. Daniel was taken hundreds of miles away from his home, into a land with a different language, a different culture, and a different religion. When he arrived in Babylon, he was chosen to be trained to serve in the royal palace, a privilege that came with a price. New clothes, new food, new identity, new expectations. They even changed his name to Belteshazzar, trying to erase his past. But Daniel knew one thing: even if he lived in Babylon, Babylon would not live inside him. The king's food was luxurious, rich, full of meats and wine, but it also broke God's commandments. Daniel did something bold, something no one else dared to do. He politely refused the king's food. Instead, he asked the palace official for simple vegetables and water. At first, the official was afraid. If Daniel became weak, the king would kill him. But Daniel said, "Test us for 10 days." After 10 days, Daniel and his friends were healthier, stronger, and sharper than everyone else. What followed was even more miraculous. God gave Daniel wisdom, intelligence, and understanding far beyond the other young men. And so the story begins, with a captive boy who refused to bow to the pressure of a foreign kingdom. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, was powerful, feared, unstoppable. But one night, God disturbed his sleep with a terrifying dream. The king woke up trembling. He gathered all the magicians, astrologers, and wise men. "Tell me what I dreamed," he demanded, "and tell me what it means." They panicked. "How can we know your dream?" they cried. Nebuchadnezzar grew furious. He ordered all wise men in Babylon to be killed, including Daniel. When Daniel heard the news, he didn't panic. He prayed. That night, God revealed the king's dream to Daniel in a vision. Daniel was taken before the king. The throne room was massive, golden, intimidating. But Daniel stood confidently. He told the king, "There is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries." Then he described the dream exactly as Nebuchadnezzar saw it: a giant statue with a head of gold, chest of silver, belly of bronze, legs of iron, and feet of clay. Then Daniel explained the meaning. Babylon was the golden head, but one day it would fall. Kingdoms would rise and kingdoms would collapse, until finally God would establish a kingdom that would last forever.
The king was stunned. He fell to his knees, honored Daniel, and made him ruler over the province of Babylon. From prisoner to governor, from captive to king's advisor. Daniel's rise had just begun. Although this chapter is known for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel's presence looms behind the events. Nebuchadnezzar built a massive golden statue and commanded everyone to bow. Daniel's 3 friends refused. They were thrown into a blazing furnace, so hot that even the guards who pushed them in died instantly. But a miracle took place. Inside the fire, the king saw not 3 men, but 4. And the 4th looked like the Son of God. When they walked out, not a single hair was burned. This event deepened Daniel's influence in Babylon. Everyone knew there was something different about him and his God. Nebuchadnezzar had another dream, a dream of a giant tree that reached the heavens, until a heavenly messenger ordered it to be cut down. Only the stump remained. Daniel listened carefully. Then he delivered a message that no advisor would dare to speak. "O king, the tree is you." Daniel explained that Nebuchadnezzar would lose his kingdom for a time. He would live like an animal, eating grass, wandering the fields, until he learned that God alone is the ruler of kingdoms. 1 year later, the prophecy came true. The mighty king lost his sanity. Hair grew long like eagle's feathers, his nails like bird claws. He lived in the wilderness for 7 years. Then finally, he lifted his eyes to heaven, and his sanity returned. He declared that the God of Daniel is the true King of Kings. After Nebuchadnezzar died, his grandson Belshazzar became king. He was arrogant, corrupt, and disrespectful. One night, during a drunken feast, he took the holy cups from the temple of Jerusalem, the sacred vessels, and used them for drinking. Suddenly, the room froze. A mysterious hand appeared in midair and wrote glowing letters on the palace wall. Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. Everyone panicked. No one could understand the message, except Daniel. Now older and wiser, Daniel stood before the king and translated the words. God has numbered your days. You have been weighed and found wanting. Your kingdom will be divided. That very night, the Persian Empire invaded Babylon. Belshazzar was killed, and the mighty Babylonian Empire collapsed. But Daniel survived, once again rising with the new rulers. Now the Medo-Persian Empire ruled, with King Darius on the throne. Daniel, even in old age, was trusted above all others. But jealousy is a dangerous thing. The other officials hated Daniel. They plotted against him, but they could find no corruption, no scandal, no failure. So they trapped him through his faith. They convinced King Darius to pass a law. Anyone who prays to any god or man except the king will be thrown into the lion's den. Daniel heard the law, but he didn't hide, didn't compromise, and didn't pretend. He went to his room, opened his window, and prayed, just as he had always done. The officials rushed to the king. Daniel was arrested. Darius realized he had been tricked, but he couldn't change the law. With sorrow, he ordered Daniel to be thrown into the lion's den. The stone was rolled over the entrance. The king spent the whole night awake, fasting, pacing, praying. At dawn, he rushed to the den. "O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God saved you?" A voice echoed from the darkness. "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths." Daniel walked out without a scratch. The king was overjoyed. He punished the conspirators instead, throwing them into the den, where the lions destroyed them instantly. And a decree was issued. Everyone in the empire was to honor the God of Daniel. Daniel was not only a leader, he was a prophet. In a vision, he saw 4 monstrous beasts rising from the sea, each symbolizing a powerful empire: a lion with eagle's wings, a bear raised on one side, a leopard with 4 wings, and a terrifying creature with iron teeth. These were the kingdoms that would shape world history.
But Daniel also saw something else, a vision far more powerful. He saw the Ancient of Days seated on a fiery throne, and the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven, receiving everlasting authority and glory. This prophecy would later become one of the foundations for understanding the coming of Jesus. Daniel saw another vision, a powerful ram with 2 horns, representing the Medo-Persian Empire. Then a fast, violent goat with a prominent horn, symbolizing Greece under Alexander the Great. The goat struck the ram, shattering its horns. But soon the goat's horn broke and 4 new horns replaced it, exactly like the division of Alexander's empire among his generals. Daniel was witnessing world history centuries before it happened. Daniel was now an old man, probably in his 80s. He read the writings of the prophet Jeremiah and realized that the exile of Israel was almost over. He fell to his knees and prayed. A prayer of confession, a prayer of mercy, a prayer of restoration. God sent the angel Gabriel with a message, a prophecy known as the 70 weeks, predicting events that would lead to the coming of the Messiah. Even in old age, Daniel remained God's faithful servant. Daniel lived through the rise and fall of empires. He served under kings, saw visions, faced death, and witnessed miracles. He was taken as a prisoner, yet rose to become a leader in every empire he lived under. His story teaches us, faith is powerful. Integrity outlasts kingdoms. Courage brings miracles, and God honors those who remain faithful, no matter the cost. The lions couldn't break him. Kings couldn't silence him. Time couldn't erase him. This was Daniel, a man of prayer, prophecy, and unwavering faith. If the life of Daniel inspires you, don't forget to subscribe and like this video.